Hello, this is Sylvia Liska-Durrell again. In part one of my How to Market Your Button Club to Increase Membership presentation, I covered the questions and results of my Button Lovers and Collectors survey. In part two, I will share ideas on how to recruit new members and retain your current members. Some of the suggestions are from my own experience in marketing our Hernando County Button Collectors group, but much of my material is from suggestions submitted by those who responded to my survey. If you remember, the three goals we gathered from the responses to the survey were more members, younger members, and because members like education, continued strong education. Okay, let's get started. Just for a minute now, think about this question. What are the goals of your club? First of all, I hope having fun is one of your top goals and that you have achieved it by sharing your obsession with like-minded friends. Now, when you take a minute to reflect on your other club goals, I'll bet one of them relates to the main goal of the National Button Society, the preservation and study of clothing buttons. This is where one of most every Button Club member's favorite thing comes in, education. But if you didn't include a future of your Button Club in your main goals, you definitely should have. None of us should be complacent, thinking the club will always be, or it isn't up to me to be a part of its future. There are ways for all of us to be active in the longevity of our clubs. Let's start by discussing what we have before we go on to growing our membership. First of all, what do you think about the size of your club? It may be small, just medium-sized, or large. All of those sizes can be perfect as long as the members are happy. But if you think you need new members, you realize it isn't just about numbers. New members can bring new energy, new ideas for outreach and promotion, and fresh leadership. You might think that having a very large club is a good thing, but is it really if you're not meeting the needs of the members? Are you hearing the voices of everyone? Do all the members show up regularly? Would an offshoot of your club be practical? Think about it in relationship to this next concern. Is making the meetings a hardship for some because it's too far of a drive? Especially as our membership ages. Ask yourselves, who has not been coming? Find out if distance is why. Maybe that subgroup meeting closer to home would be better for some. Now picture in your mind your club's membership. Does your club currently have a diverse range of ages and backgrounds? And finally, does your club regularly provide education for members? Education can range from simply spilling out a box of buttons for identification to the presentations by long-time collectors. What about to the general public? Do you take your show on the road? The bottom photo shows education at a park event. Getting back to our topic of how to market your button club, think about this question. Why do people join clubs? It would be easy to say people join a button club because they love buttons, but they can still love buttons and not join a button club. According to research I found, people join and stay in clubs for their reasons, not yours. Which means, if you want to attract new members, don't assume one size fits all or your size fits all. You'll need to find out what motivated them to join you and what will keep them coming. Do you remember when I was reviewing the survey questions in part one that I said I would get back to the 14.5% who are not members of a club? For those folks, I asked, what would entice you to become a button club or society member? Let's look at those responses now. Starting off with knowing that a club exists, what it does, and that it's nearby. A club held on weekends for those of us who work. Finding a club that provides beginners information and education to those of us who are interested but don't know much. Some would like to learn about competitions, writing awards, and tray presentation. The promise of becoming a member of a group made up of fun people who willingly share button knowledge, someone who would mentor me. Okay, let's address that first point by digging into answers to my final question from the survey. Do you have any ideas on how to recruit new members? Here are the suggestions I found on what can be done to let people know you have a button club. The suggestions include: number one, talk to local groups like over 50s clubs, quilting guilds, embroidery guilds, church groups, in fact, any group that wants speakers, including retirement communities. The photo shows me after my talk on buttons at a senior residence community. I brought along a button craft that they all seem to enjoy. The second one is from a presentation I did at a Rotary Club. Number two, book the library. A library venue instantly amps up the credibility of your message. Plus, libraries do a lot of promotion for the programs being held there. Our Hernando County Button Collectors Group's first promotional event was held at a centrally located library. Fortunately, library staff invited us to fill their lobby display case with buttons to catch the eyes of library goers prior to the meeting. I presented my History of Buttons, Why We Collect the Little Masterpieces of Art program, and we displayed lots of buttons in the meeting room. We attracted more than 25 people. Here's a quote from the library manager. "I had no idea that buttons had such an interesting history. Isn't that what we hear all the time?" And three, set up a booth at a public event. You can be very targeted and do an antique or collectibles show, or an event celebrating local history. But our little Hernando County Button Collectors Group found out it doesn't have to be antique related to bring terrific success. We set up at a native plant sale. We created an eye-catching display and introduced the subject of button collecting to many people that day who had never heard of such a thing. We asked everyone who became interested in our group to provide their contact information and included them on our emails about upcoming events and meetings. And here's what we heard from the Native Plant Society. It was observed at the wrap-up meeting tonight that the button group had the most traffic. 4. Another avenue for promotion that survey respondents recommended is to advertise and promote. Button collecting still surprises people, so once we started promoting our button group meetings in the print media, we caught the attention of a newspaper feature writer. The reporter came to my house and interviewed my friend Anne and me. Anne brought some of her most eye-popping buttons to spread across the table, and the reporter was really impressed with them. The article brought more members to our group, even months after it was published. Also, many of the smaller newspapers will accept submitted articles. Contact me if you want a copy of the article I wrote, which ran in the Florida Register and a local Senior Voice newsletter. You can edit it to suit your needs. The times they are changing, says Linda Falkenthal, who hosts the official Button Lovers group on Facebook. Her group has more than 500 button lovers from all around the world who participate on her page. There's no travel involved, and the page is lush with beautiful photos and educating information. You don't have to aspire to worldwide membership, but having your own club's Facebook page is a good way to let people know you exist. Our Hernando County Button Collectors Group Facebook page has about 250 likes or members, but with regular posts and notifications about upcoming meetings, we easily reach local button lovers. I recently also created a Facebook page for the Florida State Button Society. The National Button Society's annual meeting and show will be held in Tallahassee this year in August, so there is a lot of information about that show and other goings-on in Florida button clubs to share. Social media and all it entails, including Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and websites, is a big subject that I won't explore right now, but I think it would make a great presentation in the future. Other ways to let people know about your club include chatting about the hobby. Be sure to carry business cards to share once you've gotten someone's interest. Again, reach out to affinity groups such as quilt groups or needlework groups and art clubs and offer to talk about button collecting in your club. Posters are accepted on bulletin boards in stores like Joann Fabrics and places like beauty shops accept flyers and cards. At least once a year, ask your current members to invite a friend to one of your meetings or create a competition and give a prize to the member who brings in the most new members. Have a meet and greet at a local antique shop. What kind of programs can you offer the public as an introduction to button collecting? Promoting button collecting through an event during National Button Week is a great opportunity to get attention. And luckily, it's coming up soon, March 18th through the 24th. How about organizing button craft sessions at libraries, kids' meetings, or at senior centers? Be sure to take photos and share the photos on social media or your local newspaper. Look on the National Button Society's website for promotional ideas, and look on Facebook button sites for posts to share. I love this fun idea from Texas that the Bluebonnet Button Club hosted, a free sort of a button identification roadshow, a la Antiques Roadshow. People are invited to bring button jars and boxes for club members to look at and share information about the buttons inside with the owner. How can people get to know that you're fun and are willing to share button information? I got some great tips from survey answers, such as wear button jewelry for a conversation opener. This happened to me very recently at a sandwich shop. I was wearing my button bracelet, which the waitress noticed and liked. I quickly explained I was a member of our local button collectors group, and she asked me if I had a card. Another excellent suggestion is for when you meet someone who seems interested. Offer to pick her up for the next meeting and personally introduce her to your club members. It can be hard to walk into a group where you don't know anyone. This is from my own experience. Last week I joined a new group. The friend who was to meet me there hadn't arrived yet. After I registered, I stood looking at all the strangers and for a place to sit, and one lady caught my eye because she was looking right at me. She simply patted the seat next to her, and I walked over and took it. That was an act of kindness, and I won't forget it. Here's a great story one collector submitted. She wrote, "An article in a local newspaper about a blue ribbon winning entry in the spring show competition sparked a lot of interest. Soon after the article was published, the button collector who was featured in the article attended a neighborhood gathering and was treated like a local celebrity. She was pelted with questions about her hobby. She took the initiative and invited 10 neighbors over for a buttons and booze, or wine, get-together. 8 of the 10 wanted to meet again next month. Fun stuff, possibly leading to a new club." Here's another fun idea. Have a weekend meeting where you invite your grandchildren and your friends and their grandchildren to your home and focus on realistic buttons. You can give them cute buttons to take home and even schedule a field trip to a fabric or craft store where they can pick out buttons to start a collection. Another suggestion is to tap into new special interests in button collecting, like buttons in steampunk fashion, jewelry making, quilting, scrapbooking, memory making, like making a memorial or charm string for your family. And remember, meetings don't always have to be strictly scheduled. One idea put forward is to offer meetings outside of a regularly scheduled meeting at a coffee shop or library. This would be great for people who work during the week. In answer to my question, do you have any ideas on how to recruit new members? I received 170 responses and was able to compile a list from the 101 good ideas. Please contact me for a copy of that list. You'll see that the suggested ideas for recruitment fall into the 5 areas we have covered. friends, groups, displays, advertising, and special events. Now, before I end part 2, I want to talk briefly about care and tending of club membership. Research shows that clubs of all sorts have a turnover rate of 15 to 20% per year. People leave because they have a health problem or financial problems, they move away or pass away, or because the club is not doing enough to meet their needs. What is the one point I just listed that we can do something about? The club is not doing enough to meet a member's needs and desires. If you think your club has fallen into this first group, club is not doing enough to meet members' needs and desires, that's not a good thing, so 2 thumbs down. This is something to think about and investigate. How do you do that? The easiest way is to survey electronically via SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey's basic service is free, and it allows you to create 10 questions and collect 100 responses. That's more than enough, don't you think? Surveys are best done privately so everyone has a chance to be honest and not be talked over by outspoken people. Create some open-ended questions that allow members to write in their wants and desires. But it is also possible that your club is doing enough, but members don't see it. So include a question or two that reminds them of events they could have been a part of and ask them if they took part, and if not, why. Another more personal solution is just reach out. National Button Society membership coordinator Susan Porter wrote in the October 2016 bulletin, "Each year our biggest loss in membership comes from new members who only remain 1 or 2 years. Many of them lose interest because they don't have a mentor to help them get started." She asks, "Have you contacted any of the new members listed in the bulletin who live near you?" Support your leadership. Research shows that just 5% of members run the club and show up for almost every event. And only 15% of the members regularly participate by presenting or heading up committees. Running a club can be a huge amount of work. It can be extremely gratifying, but not when it gets salted and peppered too often with complaints from other members. People get disillusioned or tired out, and others need to step in and take up the mantle of responsibility. The bottom line is that it takes work and participation by all members to create a strong club, one that members want to join and renew, creating a vital and growing core of active members who get involved, that generate more events, discussions, and knowledge exchange, and circle back and get more people to join and renew. It's a lot to think about, but it is worth it. The prospect of button clubs disappearing is a sad one. There are solutions, but we all have to be a part of our club's future. I, for one, would miss sharing the tangible passion my fellow club members have for buttons. I would miss being part of the examining, poking, rubbing, smelling, clicking of buttons, and the excitement that comes from learning about a new type of button and its history. How about you? Would you miss that? Thanks again for your interest.